Saturday morning on March 14th. So excited to be here with you guys today, discussing, I believe, probably the most important topic at the most important time and one of our biggest historic moments. A lot of things have happened dramatically over the last week that I think this topic is so essential for us to understand in such a different way that I believe this can change your life forever. So sit back, grab your coffee, and let's have a discussion about the immune system. Now, the nice thing is I'm going to be going from here to the other studio just over there to actually do some drawings for you. And I'm going to kind of put together some of the thoughts I've had over the last 21 years, actually even longer, but just say 21 years. I have some stories for you. I have some clinical stories for you. I have some clinical experience for you. But what I'm hoping to do is reduce your fear. If there's one thing that I'm hoping by the time that you are done today, all I want you to do is have the greatest perspective on the immune system and understand what to do with it, understand how it works, and so you don't have to walk in fear anymore. When you have knowledge, you actually, once again, do not fear as much. When you seek wisdom, it actually can lead you to a very logical answer that can now empower you to make choices so you're not as scared. There's a lot of people scared out there today, and I understand it. I get why they're scared. And I let you know, I'm scared for some people. And that's one thing. So as you know, as I've been talking all week when it came to the immune system, I want to put everybody's fears down when it says, well, doc, which side are you on? I'm not on any side. I'm telling you right now, I look at people, for example, that have very, their immune systems, once again, need help, and they should be scared of just a common cold to bacteria. And there's people that the immune system, you can basically jump in a tub of sewage, and they wouldn't get affected by anything. But see, once again, but if you don't have an understanding about this immune system and how it works, there's a lot of fear because you don't know where you are. I'm hoping by the end of today that you'll have a greater perspective on it, a very different perspective that I've personally never taught it this way, even though this is the way I've thought my whole career. My practitioners from all over the world think this way, but I want to really dig deep into the immune system and get some things so worked out that you're going to walk away extremely confident about what we have to present to you today. So once again, immunity. You know, it's people said, Doc, what can I do to maximize my immunity? Well, let's start here. And I'm going to start with a statement that I want you to hold on to, because when I first say it to you, you're going to be like, what? You're like, I don't understand. But I promise you, if you hang with me through this thing, by the time I'm done, I believe that you will totally grasp what I'm saying here. And actually, you'll start telling everybody about it here. So here it is. Immunity does not exist. Immunity does not exist. This is one of the biggest fallacies and why people are so scared out there, because they don't understand what it really is. Immunity does not exist. They mislead people. It's a falsehood. And you say, Doc, you know, where are you getting all your opinions from? Well, some of the stuff is perspective, but I'm telling you right now, as you see right here, I have, as you guys know, I am an avid textbook reader. I read a lot of research, but I also like to see what they're doing in all the medical schools and all the healthcare schools. And I literally order, I don't know, anywhere from 20 to 30 textbooks per year and go through them, mainly on immunology and biochemistry. And actually, I recently just applied for a Harvard Medical School immunology and biology class, biochemistry class, because I'm always constantly want to see what they're doing out there and sharing not only with the public, but also with medical students and chiropractic students and naturopathic students and all of them. So as you can see, I'm actually came to this conclusion. And I believe if you actually read these, and came from a certain perspective, you'd agree with me too, because here's why. Now let me give you a real clinical example. Let's start right here. I will always put it into clinical outcomes for you so you have a greater understanding. Let's take this child right here. What does this child have? Any guesses? Any guesses? In studio, any guesses here? That's right, chickenpox. This child has chickenpox. Now let's look at both camps. One camp says, if you get chickenpox, you're going to die. Okay, well, once again, there has been kids that have died from chickenpox. On the flip side, you have the people say, well, if you get chickenpox and you go through it naturally, you're immune for what? What do people say? Forever. Look at everybody in the studio did it. So let me go with this. You have the camp that says, don't get chickenpox, you can die, it can cause scarring, it can cause a lot of things. And the flip side, the other side, they're going, man, if you have chickenpox and go through it naturally, you're immune forever, you're immune for life. Guess what? They're both wrong. I'm sitting in the middle going, looking at both sides going, wait, you're taking it out of context. Let me show you. Let me show you why immunity does not exist. Because, once again, the varicella virus, as our immune system actually has to deal with it. Once again, everybody, for example, that has come in contact with chickenpox has a chance for this. Guys, what's that over there for you guys in studio? And you guys, as you guys are watching this, actually interact with me through the process, because then you'll remember it. So in studio, for all you guys sitting here, we have a ton of people sitting in the studio today. So what's this? Shingles. That's right. And actually, the only way that you can really get shingles is you have to have the varicella virus, the chickenpox virus, in order to get it. Well, wait. I thought that if you went through it naturally, that the fact that you wouldn't get this later in life. I'm telling you right now, immunity does not exist. Immunity does not exist. It's the biggest falsehood. And you guys have been conditioned, both in the medical world, both in the natural world, everybody's going to die from something, and everybody's immune to it if they go through it naturally. That's not true. There's no such thing as immunity. Immunity is false. And by giving people that false hope, they don't understand how to take care of themselves their whole life. Because they say, once you go through it, you're immune the rest of your life. That's false. There is no biological, immunological, anatomy thing, biochemical aspect that proves that whatsoever. So that's why when you actually have people that say, you know, on both camps, I'm sitting here in the middle going, come on guys, you're not understanding how the immune system actually works. So then, where did they get the term immunity? I mean, what did it come from? I mean, how can they actually say that people are immune to things? Well, actually, I dug in some pretty decent research, and I found out where they actually got the word immunity. The term immunity is derived from the Latin word immunitas, which refers to protection for legal prosecution offered to Roman senators during their tenure in office. It just said they can mess up all they want, and guess what happens? They're immune to it. They're without prosecution. They're without prosecution. And then English turned it into immunity, and they tried to relate it to our system of our body. Well, how they came up this and actually relate it to a body system that says you now are immune is actually very false. It's actually very false. It makes no sense. So let's go back to the camp. You have the camp that says if you get chickenpox, you're immune for life, and then if you actually get chickenpox vaccine, you're immune. Once again, they're both actually wrong. I'm sitting in the middle going, neither one of you guys actually make either sense when it comes to immunology. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you a journey on something that I just put together that I believe what I call the 5 W's of the immune system. I'm going to take you through the 5 W's of the immune system. So what is it? What, why, where, when, and who? And if we can actually go through the 5 W's of the immune system and relate to the evolution of what I've come across of putting this together from my own clinical experience to my intense research, intense, there was a study out there, let me explain why I love this. See, a lot of people don't realize there's a great study out there, and you can pull it up if you want to look at it, just Google search, it's kind of cool. If you study 1 hour a day on a subject every day for 5 years, you become a top 1% of that profession in the whole world. Man, I'm telling you right now, an hour a day, I try to do many hours a day of trying to actually consume every textbook, every aspect, what everybody's reading, all this stuff, because once again, look what's happened today. The people who are in control of the media, people who are in control of this process, have led to shutting things down all over the United States and all over the world. And I can tell you right now that once you actually understand this, I'll tell you, once again, I'm sitting in the middle. Everybody should be quarantined, everybody should be out. I'm sitting in the middle saying, guess what? Some people should be quarantined and some people can get out. But I'm going to show you why. I'm going to show you how can we figure this out. So once again, you're not walking in fear. So let's go through the 5 W's of the immune system. First of all, what is it? What is it? So I can honestly tell you, going through all these major textbooks, I'm going to toss everyone aside except for one. And I've got a lot more than this. I just wanted to show you some of them because I want to keep this one for the ending, okay? So what happens is, what is it? So as you actually go through it and look at how they actually define the immune system, you're going to find out they can't define it. They can't. Let me say it again. They can't define the immune system. Every textbook actually literally throws out different ideas, their perspective, different things about it that way. And so instead of actually, so that's why when I said, what's the 5 W's of the immune system? What is it? That's actually very difficult to actually say. It's why it's such a confusing field. It's why you can read immunologists' paperwork and their research and stuff, and a lot of it that you don't realize is totally speculation and opinion. So I'm going to tell you right now, the majority of stuff that actually we make massive decisions on, of canceling every sporting event, everything, is based on people's opinions. It's based basically on people's opinions. Well, I'm going to show you, once again, how you can actually walk through this stuff, make it very clinically simple, and not walk in fear. So here it is. So the better question is, we can't really answer what, so let's actually answer what and why. So I kind of took all of the authors' actually definitions and kind of pieced them together, which I believe actually gives us a great definition, because that's all they do. But I want to give you a practical way that you can look at the immune system, so now you know how to take care of it. Remember, everything that I'm trying to teach you is clinical. Every time I teach you, I'm trying to do something that you could take into your life and apply it immediately. I'm not joking. You'll be able to apply these immune things immediately to where even after today, you'll walk less in fear. So here we go. So what and why? So let's define it. Now, once again, I kind of correlated some definitions from all of them and put it more into a practical clinical thing that you, the public, can actually do to actually really do well with your immune system. So here we go. All the mechanisms used by the body as protection against environmental agents, both internal and external, that are foreign to the body. These agents can be microorganisms or the chemical products produced, foods, chemicals, drugs, pollen, animals, or abnormal cells. So if we look at, the body uses all the mechanisms as a protection against environmental agents, internal and external. So I want you to think about this. We have a constant battle going on internally and externally. And our immune system is the one that has to deal with what? Microorganisms and the products they produce. For example, we have heard this. Actually, it's a defined term. We actually have biotoxins. If you've ever suffered or actually have been infected with Lyme or mold, trust me, you understand what I'm saying here. If you ever know what the Lyme or mold can release as a biotoxin, these infections can poison you on the inside. That's why if you've been infected with mold, oh, some days you get up, everything seems pretty cool. Some days you get up and it's hell on earth. Same thing with Lyme. There's some infections that produce massive chemical products that can debilitate people at a young age. That's why if you ever see a child that has debilitating things, there's some immune problem. There's some immune system issue that actually they can't deal with even the microorganisms or the products it produces that way. Foods. You guys know we are big in foods. My life is based around that whole premise that way. That these things, your body has to deal with the food that you put in. And your body doesn't know moderation. It's either a food that the immune system can deal with, it's a food that it has to react to that way. Chemicals. Oh, everything from cosmetics to actually chemicals that you eat and drink. That's why we're so significantly particular about what you put in and on your body. Drugs, you're right. Drugs by definition are a toxin. Okay, that's why it's called LD50. Do you understand that most drugs have to pass an LD50 test? That means if they have 100 rats, if 50 of them or more die, it's not an approved drug. If 49 die, it's an approved drug. It's not a joke. Look it up. It's kind of funny. It's called LD50. It's called lethal dose. Drugs themselves can do massive damage to the immune response. Pollen. Now get this. So I want to tell you something that's quite good. Think about this. Some people say, Doc, foods, I don't really get how your immune system reacts to a food when you've never had it. How can I be allergic to a cucumber or an egg or anything? How can a baby be allergic to something? Well, because they've never eaten it. Well, let me ask you a question. Have you ever been allergic to, you know anybody's allergic to a dog or a cat or a hamster or any other animal or a horse? Did they have to eat the dog to be allergic to it? I know it sounds funny, but let me ask you again. Do you have to eat the dog to be allergic to the dog? No, because you're not thinking about the immune system. You're thinking about the food or the animal or the pollen, okay? Now, something that's extremely important is abnormal cells, because we can have external things like these, but guess what? Internal, our own cells. Just as you're sitting here listening to me right now, you've made millions of cells. What cleans those cells out is our immune system, okay? So really still, what is it? Well, if you start to look through all the textbooks and all the immunology and say, where? So we're getting where? Where is the immune system? Where does it exist? All right, well, here we go. Where? Well, wait, there it is. There's the organ immune systems, but then you throw up another one, and it's different, and then this one's different, and then this one's different, and you hear people say this, that the majority of the immune system is in the gut. That's not true. That's not true, because most people don't even understand what the immune system is. It's not true. Now, what they're saying is you have a lot of lymph nodes in your GI, and the majority of lymph nodes, actually because it's 20-some feet long, it's easy to have that. But then you don't really understand what the immune system is in general. That's why people say, disease starts in the gut. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't, okay? You're actually way, by the time it hits the gut, you've already went through a lot of the immune system parts that, guess what, by the time it's there, you've already triggered your immune system dramatically, okay? I'm not saying it's not important. I'm just saying, for example, people set out catchphrases. So then you actually have the camp over here that says everything starts in the gut, and then you have the things over here that say it doesn't matter, and I'm sitting in the middle going, hey, guess what? You both have some points, you're just coming from a wrong perspective. Now, so then let me ask you a question. So I'm like going, so how did I kind of come up with the perspective? Because if you look, it's so confusing. See, that's why people say, well, if you read a textbook, it makes everything clear. That's actually not true. Actually, as you read your textbooks, there's so much opinion stuff in there, you can't distinguish between opinion and fact unless you start to come from a different perspective. So I'm going to share a story with you. That doesn't have a happy ending. It doesn't. I know a lot of my stories actually with pregnancy and all these things that come about that way. People are like, this does not have a happy ending, but it changed my life. And I was roughly, I think, 27 years old. All right? Because I can honestly tell you, and let me say this to you, and I mean this, and I want to thank the college professor that reached out to me that actually did this. You are absolutely wonderful. God bless you. She changed my perspective. Thank you, because I'm always willing to learn. College professor that made it part of the class to watch my sugar videos. And then the students had to write papers on it. And I sat and read them last night, and no joke, it brought a tear to my eye. Because I watched these young, thirsty students actually just write some beautiful papers. So thank you for sending those papers to me. But it's kind of cool because I used to always say, I don't really care that much about school and stuff like that. If you have a professor like that, that really, for example, changed her whole criteria because she learned information from what we were sharing that she knew her students had to do, man, I'm like, man, that college professor actually, she wanted people, yeah, she's absolutely amazing. She wanted people just to learn great information. But I can honestly tell you, and she even said to me, she goes, Doc, I know you're against schooling. I'm not against schooling. I'm huge into learning. But what happens is a lot of schooling's pre-programmed for people, but this professor actually changed my mind about that. So it's kind of neat. So anyways, so all of a sudden, the majority of stuff that I learned, it doesn't mean that I didn't have a great background in education that way. But here's what schooling is. Schooling is just give you a ton of information and then kind of figure it out yourself. You think I'm joking. Talk to medical doctors, talk to chiropractic students, talk to naturopaths, talk to nutritionists, talk to any degree. They just say, here, okay? And then go into the world and try to figure it out. That's basically what happens unless you have a specialty, unless you have some love for something that way. So I got to tell you a story that led to besides my own personal history of immune responses that affected my brain and how I think, and the excitation and the sensitivity that I had on my skin. I started to I came in contact, I think I was 2 years into practice, with a guy named Jeff. Let me tell you the story. It's an emotional story. It's actually very sometimes difficult to tell because this, again, didn't have a happy ending, but the unhappy ending led to transforming hundreds of thousands of lives. So I was taking care of this wonderful woman that came in for hormone issues, and she got great clinical results. And I think I'm, like I said, a couple years into practice at this time. And all of a sudden, she's like, Doc, I'd really like you to take care of my brother. I'm like, cool. He's like, he's going to fly in from California. He's going to come see you. I'm like, well, he doesn't really have to fly into California. Flying from California, I can just start with a phone consult and we get his labs done. Everything should be pretty cool. He's like, no, he really wants to meet you and stuff. Now this time, now remember guys, I didn't really get media till about 3 years ago. So it isn't like, you know, people always say, Doc, I'm so happy to see everything exploding. Well, things have exploded because of media. I've been doing the same work for a long time, but we just base by referral. And so instead of being on media like this with you, people just tell everybody, and that's how we built big practices. So anyways, so I'm like, cool. And so I'm like, and I'm not joking. I remember sitting in my room because I was adjusting at the time, and all of a sudden, I said, okay. I said, you know, I'm thinking that he's coming here because he has some, like some testosterone problems or some healthcare problems. And she's like, I said, so what's going on with him? He goes, he has AIDS. I'm like, okay, now, no joke. I'm like, I didn't show the kind of expression I did right now, but I was like, holy man. I'm like, because we get taught about HIV and AIDS in school, not to the extent of what to do with it or anything like that, because that's a whole other topic, but here. So all of a sudden I'm like, all right, so he wants to fly in, he wants to get some stuff done, and I'm not joking. I'm gonna be very upfront and honest with you. I was like, holy man, can I hug him? Can I shake his hand? Or I'm gonna get the AIDS and stuff like that? I'm not joking. Remember, I'm 27 years old going, I'm freaking out going, so I'm almost like everybody today. I'm sitting there going, oh, if I shake his hand or if he sneezes on me, and I know it's kind of funny, but this is what I said, am I going to get the AIDS? That's what I said, the AIDS? I didn't even know really much about it. So I'm like, so I looked at her, I looked at her, I'm like, be excited to see him. And inside I'm trembling. I'm sitting there trembling going, what the heck am I going to do? And I'm like, all right, HIV, there's an immune system problem. Okay, I love the immune system. I know a lot about it. Let's see what happens that way. But I didn't know, like I said, what he's been through. I'm like, does he have any labs and stuff? He's like, oh, he's got a ton of them that way. So it's kind of almost a little bit related to Christy's story where, for example, this. So I started to actually say, okay, how do I actually even test an HIV patient? So when I got his labs before he came here, and I was like, okay, they kept on checking white blood cell count, all this stuff like this. Had tests every 2 weeks. Things were going downhill, stuff like that. I was like, oh my goodness. So I said, no, well, my goodness, there's got to be more than that. I said, there's more immune cells than that, and no joke. And I was like, well, we gotta see how we can actually test him. So what I did today, now this didn't exist back then, but this is what I found. All right. So all of a sudden I'm like, but I'm going to pull up a very good reference. It's University of Rochester's Medical School. It's over by Mayo Clinic. All right. And I was like, so remember, now I didn't pull this up. This didn't exist when I had this way, but I pulled up the research and they were talking about CD4 cells and CD8 cells. And I remember that, you know, I remember from my own immune training and stuff that I was going, okay. And I'm like, but we knew that was taught for AIDS. And so I started to research a little bit about it. And I was like, okay, what does this test do? Okay, and the test looks at the ratio of 2 important white blood cells. All right, I'm like, okay, look at the white blood cell count. Maybe we can actually, because white blood cell is a general count. So when you do a CBC, which I think is imperative, it's a great big picture of the overall a couple immune cells, mainly white blood cells. Now watch, lymphocytes are a type of white blood cell in your immune system. This test looks at 2 of them, the CD4 and CD8. CD4 cells lead the fight against infections. CD8 cells can kill cancer cells and other invaders. I was like, hold the phone. Let me put that to you again. CD4 cells lead the fight against infections. And if you notice, and if you know anything about HIV, the HIV virus will actually attach to CD4 cells and destroy them. And therefore, if you ever notice, people usually don't die from a virus. They die from usually a secondary infection. It's why they actually give antibiotics to people that have a virus. Now, I know a lot of people don't know that clinically they say, well, that's dumb, it doesn't affect the virus. No, the majority of people actually die from bacterium. The virus actually just weakens them to the point that the bacterium goes, hey, I can chew on you and kill you pretty quickly. But I noticed, I was like, okay. So I actually I was thumbing through his stuff and I'm like, he had no CD4 cells tested. I'm like, white blood cell count, okay? Yes, that's a big general, but there was no specifics. It's like this: Christy, estrogen, estradiol. Where's all the rest of them? So I was like, hold the phone. Their testing for the immune system was incomplete. It sounds familiar with the Wellness Way paradigm, doesn't it? We find out that testing is incomplete. But on top of it, I didn't even know about these cells. CD8 cells can kill cancer cells and other invaders. So I was like, my goodness. So I'm sitting there scared out of my mind about a person that coming in with AIDS, full-blown, going downhill and stuff. I didn't know if I can contract it, and then I realized I can't contract it. So for example, but remember, I'm just telling you, I'm 27 years old, naive as hell. So I was like, what do I do? Now let's go on a little bit farther. Let me show you something, because it relates to this case. Okay, if you have, so all this is I kept on scrolling down. Okay, so if you go to University of Rochester Medical School, type in CD4, CD8, you can follow along with me. Okay, because this is today. If you have HIV, your CD4 cell count may be low. That's right, because it kills it. It kills it. Viruses need you. Let me say that again. Any virus on this planet, from influenza to corona to SARS to birth, everything, they need you. They need your DNA, they need your RNA, they need your cells. They cannot replicate by themselves. See, that's why by nature they're called parasitic. So, without HIV treatment, your number of CD4 cells will likely fall, and the lack of CD cells usually lead to more infrequent infections. You're right. See, so you can get a secondary infection, and that's why most people don't die from, once again, a problem, they die from a secondary infection. If you look at cancer, heart disease, and all major diseases, do you understand the majority of people actually die from an infection in the hospital? But it's listed as heart disease. It's listed as cancer. But really what happens is, and that's why people are so scared of bugs. They're like, oh, they got pneumonia and died. Well, there's pneumonia everywhere. Do you understand? No joke. I was researching this the other day. Viruses are by far the most abundant thing on the planet. By far. Do you know if you take, it's roughly 1 liter to a gallon of ocean water, there's like 1 billion viruses in there. Do you understand you can't get away from them? There's viruses in this room that we have no idea even exist yet. Yet we walk around in fear. But I'd walk around in fear if these things were low. I would. I'd be like, oh my goodness. So he came in and I was like, we had tests done. Now let's go a little farther. The tests look at the ratio of CD4, CD8 cells. Now watch this. Listen to my words. Please do me a favor. Stop everything you're doing and go to this website right now. Now all of a sudden, Rochester's gonna be like, damn, I got a lot of hits on our website because there's a ton of you live right now. And watch this, because this right here could change the direction of your life. The ratio tells your healthcare provider how strong your immune system is and helps predict how likely you are to develop a crippling infection. Let me say that again. The ratio tells your healthcare provider how strong your immune system is and helps predict how likely you are to develop a crippling infection. Medical research and medical practice never match up. For everybody that's running around there scared right now, where are you at? I know where I'm at. I know where I'm at. I know where my family's at. I know where our patients are at. I've asked you guys from all over the world, send me your labs. If you do me a favor, if you actually sent me your labs and I read them for you, because I read every one of them and I sent every one of you guys an email. I responded to hundreds and hundreds of people across the world just watching this, just because they were scared. And let me tell you this, standing in the middle, and you got the camps that everybody's gonna die, and you got the camp that it's a hoax. I'm telling you right now, I saw people that are so strong, they could come in contact with any virus, they'll be fine. I saw people that I told them, listen, I typed it in there, please do not go anywhere. Because I'm scared for you. I'm scared for you. Because your immune system actually can be crippling infected by a lot of things. And so therefore, please do me a favor. Stay indoors. Stay indoors. Doc, that was your advice, but don't you think that they're out there perpetuating massive fear? Yeah. They're speaking to the whole and actually don't realize that it's only a portion of people that are going to have to stay indoors. And we're running on this. It's only going to get worse, guys. With media and everything like that, it's only going to get worse if you don't understand this. Okay? Now, in addition, HIV conditions that are being monitored, tested to get infections of mononucleus. See, what they show is this. This gets all bad. Man, you can end up with anything from leukemia, Hodgkin's, anemia, neurological diseases, multiple sclerosis. See, so all of these things with your immune system, if they're not actually monitored, you're not immune. You're not immune. So let's say this person came in contact with chickenpox when they're little, and actually, guess what? Jeff did. Jeff had chickenpox. Jeff had some things when he was little, and guess what? He wasn't immune for life. Because you know what he broke out with? Shingles. Shingles. But wait, Doc, if you go through it naturally, you're immune for life. No, you're not. Doc, you're going to die from chickenpox. No, you're not. See, but I can tell you what may happen if actually you get tested this way. So I sat there, and I'm like, all right, Jeff, let's get some blood work done. And I said, here's what happens. You know, he was weak and stuff like that, and he ended up coming to the office and actually got his labs done and things like that. And then he went back home because he was just tired, and he visited family for a little bit. He went back home, and actually 2 days after he got home, he died. He died. He died. He didn't have a chance. I'm not saying, get this, might sound interesting. Maybe the new bacteria he came in contact with from California to Wisconsin put him over the edge. It could have. Do you know why? Because when I got his lab, if I would have known back then what his lab would have been at, I would have never had him travel to Wisconsin to get on a plane, to go into a tube of people coughing and sneezing, to come to Wisconsin, to come into to come into places that way. Because when he got home, it didn't survive. So I sat there, upset, frustrated, saddened for the family, because I sat there and said, what if I could have got this information to him a year ago? Could I guarantee that he would have lived? No, I can't. He was in full-blown AIDS. He could have actually just continued to do it that way. But what if? What if? What if we could have got stuff to them before? And that's when I realized that people were perpetuating what the immune system does. They were leading people to a lot of falsehoods. Now watch, and that's when I had my light bulb moment. That's when I actually had a light bulb moment that I believe, actually, after looking at all the labs, looking at all the testing, looking at all the immune system that way, that guess what? We don't have an immune system. The whole concept of immune system, it's why they can't define it, it's why they can't quantify it, it's why they can't put it in a textbook, it's why they can't do anything with it, because here's what happens. We don't have one. We don't have one. But what we do have, as I said before, we have an immune response. See, all of these tissues, organs, cells, and everything actually perpetuate a response. And unless you can correlate and actually measure and look at all those together, you're going to not have any idea how this whole thing responds. And then what happens is we go along and tell people that if you do this, it's going to make you more immune. If you do these things, it make you more immune. That's not true. Everything that this body does is responding to that internal and external environment. Now, what I'm going to show you is how we've been programmed to totally get this wrong, which has led to actually causing this response to be mitigated. Okay? So here we go. So I'm going to do this, Brandon. I'm going to head to our studio. It's just right there. All right, here we go. That way, jump in. All right. They asked me to jump into it. You guys got me? So first of all, let's go through this. Yes, Ross wasn't here to draw, so that was my best form of a drawing that way. But what I'm going to do is just going to walk through some immune responses, and let's look at how they've taught you your whole life, and let's see what actually the body's really doing. All right? Now, it's kind of cool. I'm just going to go through this. No one's getting everything I teach you. Guess what? You can actually not only Google search, you can look at a very textbook, but if you don't look at it from the idea that the body's always trying to respond to internal and external pathogens, those things we listed before, okay, you won't get this. So here we go, but I'll teach you. So now, let's talk about this. See, a lot of people, get this, I was doing a video the other day, and I was talking about it, and people said, Doc, stop touching your face. Well, I'm not worried about touching my face because I know where my immune system's at. They say, don't touch your face because you can bring your hands, you could have touched the virus, you could bring it to your face. You know why they worry about the face? Because it has orifices, the easiest for the body to actually do what? Get inside. Now where? Watch. Once again, So let's say we have a little virus here. All right? Now, once again, the virus is going to enter either the nose, the eyes, the ears, or the mouth. All right? So that's what it does. It's actually going to go in there. Now, why? It wants to get in. It wants to grab onto a cell. It wants to go and steal your RNA and DNA and replicate, and that's what an infection is. All right? So now, so it does this. Well, guess what? Our body knows how to respond to all of these organisms. But doc, don't worry. This one's different because it's mutated. Do you guys understand what mutation is? I think I'll do a whole, just one on mutation. Do you understand? You guys have all mutated actually probably in the last year. You know what up is this? I guarantee since I started doing videos 3 years ago, I mutated. Do you know why? I had to adapt to all this new EMF and stuff like that. You're saying your body is constantly mutating and adapting to its environment for survival. Actually, heck, if you haven't looked at this, look what happened to even body shapes over the last 30 years. It's dramatically changed, okay? Now, no joke, even look at the size of people and different things. They're always mutating. Now, so get this. This virus is going to enter in. But let's use the nose, for example, because I want people to actually just get a clear picture of this. So a virus actually enters in trying to invade, trying to get in that way. It comes to the nose. Well, our body, our first, once again, immune organ is not the gut. Is not the all these things. Our first actually immune is actually our barriers. Okay? When you look at the external things they're trying to get in, it's our barrier, it's our skin. So our skin actually produces amazing things. Let me give you this. Your skin, now let me say this because once again, let's perpetuate and get rid of some myths. The body has to be basic. Actually, that's not really true. There are certain organs that have to be very basic, certain organs that have to be very acidic, certain organs that have a lower pH, some organs have a higher pH. The skin is very acidic. Why? Because once again, it even produces acid-base enzymes to protect itself from bacteria and viruses coming in. Because here, let's start here. Our stomach. Somebody tell me what the job of the stomach is. People say digest food. That's not true. That's one of its functions, but it's not its main function. Because you really don't need stomach acid to break down fatty acids or actually sugars. You have other things to do that. The main job of the stomach is to sterilize. Let me say it again. Is to sterilize. So therefore, guess what a virus is? A virus is a protein. It's a protein. Well, imagine that. Stomach acids, you digest protein, so our skin is very acidic. And it even produces acidic things in our ears, in our nose, in our mouth. That's why sometimes if a virus enters your nose, it'll produce certain enzymes that are acidic and it'll burn. Oh, my throat burns. My nose burns. My ears burn. Yeah, because it's becoming more acidic. It's why your blood goes acidic when you get an infection. Oh, but doc, yes, it does. Your body knows what it's doing. It's responding. Well, I got to do more basic stuff. No, you don't. You'll perpetuate the virus. You'll perpetuate the virus. Your body knows how to respond. See, that's the one thing. When everybody thinks the body made a mistake, it didn't make a mistake. It's responding to its internal and external environment. Now watch this. So it actually does what? So all of a sudden, it gets inside the nose, it touches it, and guess what? The body says, whoa, not only do I produce enzymes, I'm going to bring all of the first part that we're born with. So let's go back here. This is our white blood cells and our interferons and etc. that we're born with. Actually, mom helps you develop those. That's why it's very important for mom to take things during her pregnancy to make sure that she's building her immune system that now can pass to the child, because the mom's immune system is actually equated with the child's immune system. It's been shown, documented so much, it's crazy. That's why I got so criticized a long time ago when I said sick mommies produce sick babies. Doc, that's offensive. No, it's not. I'm trying to say, listen, you need to be healthy. You need to do the right things. Eating all these things and stuff like that during pregnancy is vital for you to actually create a healthy child and create a healthy immune system. So now, but here's what happens. Watch this. There's a response, okay? The innate response. Now, this by definition is listed as protective. Protective. This is what you're born with. You're born with this. Can I say it again? You're born with this. Well, doc, but what happens if a child's born deficient? They're susceptible. They're susceptible. Okay. It's really weird. Siri's talking to me while I'm doing this way. Thank you, Brandon, for doing this way. See, the government's always listened to us. So they're listening to our talk. Hey, that's right. Government's listening to our talk right now. Well, hope they can learn something, all right? So here's what happens. So you're born with this. Now, can you test for this? Absolutely. You can. That's why blood work is kind of nice. Well, doc, are you against doing blood work on babies? Nope, I'm not. I'm not. I'm actually want to do it more on mom and stuff of that to see where she's at. But once again, I'm not against doing it, okay? So now, there's certain immune cells. Now there's a lot of them, and I'm not going to go through all of them today. Otherwise, I could teach 8-hour seminar to doctors just on this right here, okay? Now, so there, watch this though. So all these immune cells, what they do is if it starts to go in there, the body says, listen, we have enzymes and we also have mucous membranes. And also get this, we also, these white blood cells, little macrophages, little dendritic cells, they will actually do what? They will actually eat them up and they'll spit them back out. So imagine this. Imagine your child goes to school, which happens every September. I love schools. Do you know why I love schools? Schools are nothing but a big petri dish. Everybody do me a favor in the comments if you like that. Write it in the comment right now, petri dish. Because they are. It's a ton of bacteria and viruses that your child comes in contact with. And what happens after they shortly get home from school after a couple weeks? Oh man, they got some sniffles. My 6-year-old actually did the same thing. Because you know why? Because when she came in contact with a new environment, she may have breathed them in. And those mucous membranes say, listen, I'm going to flush you out. I'm going to push you out. So I'm going to start producing mucus. And I'm going to start to get a runny nose. Okay? Let me see a question. Here we go. If your child comes home with a runny nose, what are you programmed to think? Come on, everybody here at studio. My child's getting sick. Whoa, 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 whoa. See, this is where they led you wrong right away. They're telling you that the body's innate immune response that they are genetically programmed to do and protect from outside invaders, that guess what? It's the sniffles. They're starting to get sick. No, they're not. That immune response, for example, sets up all the rest of the immune response. It's actually a domino effect. But oh wait, yeah, we're going to give them some decongestion and some antihistamine. You are actually trying to counteract the response that the body is trying to do to actually protect its own barriers. And if you actually do that, you allow that virus to get in more. So now, but guess what? The body says, oh my goodness, it got in and we can eat them up. Now we got some little cells there. They're like little Mr. Pac-Mans. They eat them up and they push them right back out. Okay? So what happens if your child comes home with a sniffly nose and a boogery nose? And you see those green boogers coming down? Man, they are sick. They're not sick. They are not sick. When Felicity, my 6-year-old, went to school and she got that sniffles and with that and got some green boogies that way, I was like, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. Her body knows exactly what it has doing. Now, let me ask a question. Anybody out there, if you get a sniffles and a runny nose, do you feel good? No. And we've led moms especially into this thing because they're kind of crabby, they're kind of whiny. We just want our child to feel good. No, you don't. You don't want to feel good. Do you know why? Do me a favor. Twist your ankle. It swells up like crazy, and even Packer players come and say, Doc, I can't step on it. Yeah, your body's responding to damaged tissue. Stay off it. Well, I got to play, or I got to go do these things. If I put ice on it and rest, ice, compress, and elevate, and I take some steroids, it's going to come down. Yes, but you actually are not repaired, so you're going to cause more damage by it feeling better. Sometimes you feeling bad is your body saying, listen, take it easy. So now, guess what? It says, all right, now, to protect it, we're going to bring some more immune cells there, and we're going to actually start to raise the temperature. Well, let me ask you a question. If your child came home from a runny and sniffly and boogery nose, and actually, guess what? If it went through into the throat, a burning throat, and actually also even a cough, and then got a fever, you would say, my child's what? And I'm sitting there going, then you don't understand the immune responses. Your child is extremely healthy. Now, what I want to make sure, let's throw a little monkey wrench into that. I want to make sure that these labs are normal, because if the labs are normal, their body will be able to respond to this internally. You won't see a thing except for the outside stuff, and then they will go through it the way they're supposed to. And that could take anywhere from 5 to 14 days. You're saying? Well, this response only takes about 4 days. But what happens, we're going to quickly adapt this stuff. And that's why people are like, but Doc, it's so inconvenient because I got to go to work. I get it. Somebody tell me something. Is a child ever convenient? I love my kids. I do. I love my kids. But kids are very inconvenient. They are. They're inconvenient to your life. Because all of a sudden, you could be want to go to a family function or a party, and all of a sudden one kid pukes, and guess what? You're not going to the party. That's inconvenient. That's called having children, okay? I'm trying to teach you how to build this immune system so they're stronger later in life. So now, but guess what happens? Let's say this is deficient. I'm going to show you labs where it is. Now, in order to protect themselves, there's a whole nother adaptive part or acquired or a building process. And the body does what? It tries to build up a wall. It tries to build up a wall and says, hey, what we're going to do is we're going to create all these antibodies and these T cells, okay, which are more like Mr. Pac-Man's because these are B cells. Just giving you some names. And what they do is, once again, and this is considered protective because they're trying to put up a wall. What does it do? Because if a bacteria or virus, we're talking about viruses mainly, if the virus comes in and he gets inside and hits the bloodstream, your body's going to throw an antibody to try to attach to it. Now why? Because here's what happens. When it's attached to it, it can't get into a cell. And then our other cells that eat stuff up, our other T cells as we start to develop for it, will run around. It's Mr. Pac-Man right there. We'll run, he's facing backwards. He's going to try to eat him up. So think about it this way. This is the idea of protecting people, protecting people. So if you think about it this way, our whole medical system is actually based on one fraction of this part. One fraction. It doesn't equate itself with this whatsoever. Do you understand? The only reason why it tests this at all is to make sure that you don't die from the treatment. If you're going through any cancer radiation or any kind or chemotherapy radiation that way, they test this all the time. They don't even care about this. Do you know why? Because chemotherapy and everything destroys this, but also destroys this. And this is what keeps you alive, not that. This is an adaptive acquired aspect this way. This is what keeps you alive. They don't even look at this with the exception of just a test because they have nothing for this. See, they skip parts that they have nothing for. Let me say it again. They skip parts. Because even in this adaptive response right here, they actually skip it. There's portions they don't even care about. Do you know why? They have nothing to treat it. They have nothing to treat it. But if you notice, in order to actually have this great immune response, it has to go through the certain barriers. Let me say again, it has to go through certain barriers. But what if I go over here and I get rid of all the barriers and I put a pathogen, put a bacteria, put a virus into your system by breaking your barriers? They go right here and they flood your body with antibodies. See, and that's why you hear every doctor talk about antibodies. If a doctor you hear on video, if you hear a doctor talk about a thing, they say, well, you gotta have antibodies. That's actually not true. That's not true. Do you know why? Because antibodies, most of them, disintegrate in 30 days. Disintegrate in 30 days. Want me to prove it to you? Here, watch this. A child, instead of, because you know, the doctor said, listen, your child's gonna die from chickenpox if you don't get a chickenpox shot. All right. Because there are kids that have died from chickenpox. So here's what happens. So they get the shot. Guess what? They're immune for life. No, that's not true. Because they bypass this. They don't even do the full aspect of this. They produce a bunch of antibodies. That's why you always hear about antibodies. I'm not saying antibodies are important. I'm saying they're so focused on, it's like going from A to B to C to D to E to F, and they're already at D, and they forgot about A, B, C. And they go, look at the antibodies, but then guess what happens? Your body spikes them up, so let's go to timeline. They spike them up, and then they drop down. And then that's where the educated doctors say, we need to boost them up again. They're missing parts. And that's why they say these things protect a person. Well, not fully. Because here's what happens. You're not supposed to have constant titers in your blood. You're not supposed to. They're not always supposed to be there. Your IgM titer and things like that are not supposed to be. That's a whole nother talk. But I want you to think about this. Because here's what happens. Those antibodies, if they see any tissue that has a problem, they'll attach to it. But what if it's your thyroid? It's Hashimoto's or Graves'. What if your joints? It's rheumatoid. So by them perpetuating massive amount of antibodies, they're also setting your body up for some autoimmune aspects. It's been well documented. See, but if you don't understand the immune system and what happens and how this works, just even in the protective realm,
They jump right to the middle of the adaptive, and that's why you don't hear much about the innate immune system. Because once again, what do they have for it? What do they have for it? Now down here, there's also this. But let's say, doc, let's say it gets now passes all the barriers, and now it passes the adaptive immune system that way, and now you get infected. That's why here's what happens. This is actually called a protective aspect. That's why I say we're trying to protect the public. Well, you understand. Anybody ever got a flu shot and still got the flu? Anybody ever got the flu shot and still got flu? They say, well, they picked the wrong virus. That's not really true. That's not really true. Because you know something that's kind of funny? A lot of these antibodies are unspecific. They'll attach to all things that don't belong there. So even if another virus came in, sometimes they'll attach to it. They will. So here's what happens. But then what happened is, because this and this did not do its job through the process because maybe they're deficient. So here's what happens. What's the number one thing that leads to innate protective problems here? Deficiencies or toxicities. Deficiencies or toxicities. Toxicities can damage those immune cells. You think you can eat toxins? You think they inject toxins? Drugs? Steroids? Antihistamines, antibiotics, they're actually known to suppress the immune response. See, so they're kind of like, they kind of miss this whole boat into here. So now, but doc, I got the flu shot, I got everything, but I still got the flu. Yes, but then you're dependent on another system in your body. Because we're over here, I love this little bugger. This is more eradication. That's why your natural killer cells, oh guys, these are awesome. These are big Mr. Pac-Man. They are butt kickers. I'm fascinated with natural killer cells because they will scavenge, and not only the fact that all of a sudden watch this. All of a sudden we have a cell, and then we have the DNA and RNA. We have all the organelles, and all of a sudden the virus actually bypasses this, bypasses the protective layer and gets into a cell. All of a sudden, guess what? This is how cool the body is. This is so fascinating by me. I mean, this is, man, once you understand how the whole body works, it's very difficult when people say certain things to go, where do you come to your conclusions? Because the cell, when it gets infected, will put up a little flag, a little tip up, as I did on my video the other day. And it says, hey, I got something inside me. You gotta get me out. That's why the job of a doctor is to observe what the body is saying. Let me say that job. The true job of a doctor is to observe what the body is saying to you. Testable, 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 and testable, not in the medical field. You know what I'm saying? So now, natural killer cells come along and he eats this bugger up. He tears up the whole cell. And guess what happens? These natural killer cells will eradicate infected cells, abnormal cells, which by definition are called what? That's why I did the video cancer and virus. The cure is the same. These little buggers chew up. You're born with these. You're born with these. They're innate. I'm so fascinated by the defense mechanisms that God gave us. It just, oh, I'm just like, man, it's mind-blowing. So now, but let's say, for example, we actually now start to do an adaptive response. Guess where this is? CD4/CD8. And once again, this does a whole nother thing. Once it's infected, we built an adaptive part, and this is where we get our memory and stuff from. We do get some memory cells from here, but this is where we get the most of our memory. Wait, let me say that again. We get most of our memory of our immune response from infection. Wait, in order to build the best responses to live long, happy life is actually when you get infected. Now, if this is down, and this is down, and this is down, please don't get infected. Stay home. Stay home. Because this infection, if these things aren't good, you're going to die. You're going to die. See, so that's why when you have all the camps saying, infect everybody. Okay, so I have these moms. I love them. They, and I'm more in this camp too, okay? But let me explain. Here's where I'm more in the middle. So what happens is this. We have a camp where it's like these moms, like, they want to infect their kids with every infection. Now, you say, Doc, but you would want to do that too. The only difference is I make sure that my kids are ready for it. That's the difference. That's the difference. With technology today compared to even 50 years ago, this should give you such great confidence and lack of fear once you know if your doctor's leading you to actually see how your immune system is doing, so that when you go out to the world, should you be scared or not? Should you be scared or not? Because if this is down, I'm not having my kids go anywhere. If this is normal, I'm going to go send them to every school on the planet to try to get in contact with everything to actually continue to build good responses. See, so I get it. I get what they're doing now. They're saying, everybody stay home. I get it. Because for the population that may be bad here, and I'm going to show you some, I got labs on it that way, they should stay home. But everybody, I don't get it. I don't get the scientific validation of that. I really don't. Because if they actually said to people, you know, if you get your immune system tested, we can tell you where you're at. But see, it's not a disease process. So unless you have HIV, they don't even run this test right here. That's why if you type in CD4, CD8, I actually had a woman so mad at me one time, she never came back. Because before I actually did blood work in my office and stuff like that, I used to send them to the local hospital. And so they put in their CD4, CD8 ratio, and she called my front desk and she was screaming at my front desk. She goes, Dr. Flynn thinks I have AIDS. She never came back. You know why? She thought I gave her a lab thinking that I thought she had AIDS. I'm like, no, I'm seeing where your immune system is at. And I just did a bad job of explaining it. I did. That was my fault. It wasn't her fault. I did a bad job explaining it. I haven't done everything right. You know what I'm saying? I was like, but I did this. I was like, oh, son of a gun. Now this woman probably hates me like crazy, thinks I think she has AIDS and stuff, and now she's never going to come back, and she never did. So now, let's go back here, Brandon. We good, Brandon? Yep. Do me a favor. If this makes sense, can you do me a favor? Put in the comments, makes sense. You can look this up basically in every immunology book, what I just taught you right there. Right there. It's just coming at it from a different perspective. It's looking at the whole immune response compared to just one part of immune response. Now, so let's do this. So let's take a look at that innate immune response. Here we go. Here's a person that came in, a child that came in with their white blood cell count, want to be between 3.9 and 11.4, 2.7. Don't let this kid go visit anybody. Their first innate part of their immune system and their scavengers are low. No. Don't put your child, like say, Doc, but let's say the innate's down, couldn't the adaptive kind of do it? Sure. But why do you want to put that stress on the body? Okay, keep this person home and build up the white blood cells. Building up the white blood cells is a whole nother different perspective. Man, like I said, I could go for 8 hours on this topic alone. But just giving you a general idea, this is a kid, keep them home. Keep them home. Because that innate immune system is petered down. Now, because what does white blood cell count do? It actually chases microbial things, both bacteria and viruses, through our body. So what I want to do now is I want to show you the coolest video on the internet. I'm going to show you, it has no sound, it doesn't need any sound. I'm going to show you, when I saw this, I was just fascinated. This came out years ago, and I've never showed this before. To me, this is the coolest video on the planet, all right? So there's some red blood cells. There is a white blood cell, okay? Now guess what's right there? A little bacteria. And guess what? Bacteria know our immune cells. They run from them. But watch this. This is the coolest thing ever. Watch. So look at this. He's chasing that little bugger through the bloodstream. He's going. He doesn't give up. He is genetically programmed to go after that bugger. He's chasing, and then finally, what does he do? He moves all the red blood cells. Isn't that cool? He pushes them out of the way, and then finally he grabs them. And he eats them up, and he destroys them. That's cool. You don't have to do anything for that. All of your responses that your body, you have been given, God given inside you that way. You just have to understand how to build this. You have to understand how to restore your immune system. Remember, a carpenter doctor knows how to restore a person's health. That's what happens. It's the coolest thing. So I had a mom send me this. There's white blood cell count, 3.7 to 12.1 at 12.4. Guess what? It's elevated. He's dealing with something. He's dealing with it just fine. Now, does this child feel good? Nope. Nope. Runny nose, sniffly cough, everything, just worn down like crazy and stuff. Good. Mom, guess what happens? Immune system is going crazy right now, sending stuff all over the place. Good, because what is it going to do? It's going to scavenger all those things, but it's absolutely beautiful. So am I scared for this child to go places? Nope. Other child I was. Other child I do not want them to go anywhere. But this person's immune system responds beautifully. It doesn't mean you're not going to suffer. It doesn't mean you're not going to suffer. Can I say that again? It doesn't mean you're not going to suffer. But when we're uneducated, when we don't have knowledge, when we don't have wisdom, we don't understand that this is what's supposed to happen. We're supposed to feel like crud, so we think we're going to die. Everybody now, because of the massive fear, if they get any kind of sniffle, any kind of fever, any kind of cold, they're going to be running into emergency rooms like crazy thinking that they're going to die from a virus. And guess what? Someone will. Because their immune system is compromised. Okay? Now, let's go back to the 5 W's. When? When does your immune system work? I threw a bunch of human bones here because this is quite cool. I want you to be fascinated with the immune response. If you notice, I don't call it the immune system, I call it the immune response. You cannot define the immune system, but you can define the immune response. So here we go. So when you look at the immune response, when does it work? It never stops. Do you understand that if my people that are visiting here in studio today, if we were to take James and we were to lay him out on top of this table, and all of a sudden I kill him, okay? Guess what happens? He's dead. If no animal or nobody does anything with him, within roughly 6 weeks, his own bacteria that feeds him nutrients, that helps protect against other bacteria, would eat him down to bone. That is cool. That is cool as can be. Because you know why? Because that bacteria and viruses and everything like that, you know what they turn them back into? Dirt. Dirt. That's why when you get a little virus or bacterium in your throat, it's scratchy because actually they produce dirt. Man, when you understand this, it's cool as can be as how the immune response works. Now, and then what can happen, understand how the immune system works, you can measure a bunch of those white blood cells and the responses, and the eosinophils are high. Why do I bring it up? Because if the eosinophils are high, you have bad allergies, especially IgE, and you better be very careful. This child came in, and I said, we got to get the skin prick test. What? Doc, you didn't do your blood work? Yes, we did. But I also sent them to get the skin prick. Because you know why? Because once again, IgE can be on the inside, but IgE also can come to the skin, and that's why, once again, it's more extensive when you do more extensive testing that way. And when I actually did the skin prick, there were some skin prick ones that didn't end up on the blood because the majority of them are supposed to be at the skin. So the idea is the IgE. And so guess what? They had gluten, they had eggs, they had a ton of stuff. And they never knew. They never knew their immune system was responding to it because their doctor looked at the eosinophils and said, well, they're okay because they're not dying. So now, get this. So we talked about that other part of the immune response. So let's go back to let's go back to that innate, actually, eradication part. Man, the natural killer cells. I am obsessed with these buggers because you understand what these guys can do. They can tear up anything, okay? They are just amazing. But here's not so amazing. Here's a guy, natural killer cells, it's between 70 and 760, so you probably want to be in the range of 300-400. He's at 63. That's not a good day. That means his own inborn stuff is not actually doing well. Why? Deficiency. Deficiency. See, the cool thing about this is once you understand that your innate immune system is actually deficient because of deficiencies or toxicities, it gives us as clinicians, it should give all the medical field. So I hope that some medical doctor actually watches this and says, I'm going to test these things, but on the flip side, here's what happens. there's no drug that brings these back up. That's why they're not tested. Not tested. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, didn't really want to say this, but it's true. People understand why I'm so obsessed with astragalus? That's why I'm so obsessed with it. Because of its beautiful response to actually feed the bone marrow, which is a whole different topic on this. Now, if you look, National Cancer Society, because remember I told you about this, actually doesn't distinguish between an infected cell from a virus or bacterium, or, for example, a cancer cell. So what are natural killer cells? A type of immune cell that has granules, remember that, with enzymes that kill tumor cells or cells infected with viruses. Natural killer cell is a type of white blood cell, also known as natural killer cell. Think about this. I think this is so cool. Think about this. It's such a good relationship. Remember he says, humans copy nature all the time. Don't believe me? Guess what happens? You see a bird, we create a plane. You see a fish, you create a submarine. Do you see what I'm saying? So here's what happens. You see a natural killer cell, what it does, it's kind of cool. Not only does it engulf the cell, it actually releases little chemicals. It basically pukes on the cell and degenerates it. Think about that. Guess what? Doctors tried to mimic that. It's called chemotherapy. It's called chemotherapy. Watch this. Kill tumor cells. Do you want to know what this guy came in from? Cancer. Cancer. You have natural killer cells low for a long time. I'm scared for you for viruses, but I'm also scared for you in the future of cancer, because that's what his job is. So, now watch this though. I love this. Low circulating natural killer cells count for associated with severe diseases in patients with common variable immunodeficiencies. Guess what, guys? The people that should be scared about any virus, I don't care what it is, I don't care if it's corona, I don't care if it's influenza, it's people that are immune deficient. So that's why when you look, there are going to be people that die. Let me predict it right now. You're going to see deaths. You're going to see deaths. But you know why you see deaths? Because the doctors that have been taking care of these patients all their life have never once looked at it this way. Their perspective has led to people being immune deficient. Their perspective tells people, don't worry, soda's okay for you, but even though it destroys your immune system. They tell you that, guess what? Do these kind of immune things that your doctor does, from antibiotics to vaccines and everything, which actually suppress your immune system, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm like going, well, how is that even viable if you know anything about the immune system? Anything. Because that's the only thing they can do clinically. Because once again, you think you're going to walk into your medical doctor and he's like, hey, you got natural killer cells, well, let's give you some astragalus. Maybe some echinacea, maybe things like that. See, people don't realize, once again, when you do these things and get tested, you don't walk in fear. You walk in confidence. That, guess what? That you look at a guy like that, I'm not confident for him. I don't want him out. I wouldn't send him to China. I'd be scared for him. So once again, so people say, everybody's going to die. Well, that guy could. It's a hoax? No, that's not a hoax, a guy like that. So I love this part. Keep going down on the research. Natural killer cells have been shown to exert antiviral and anti-tumor activities. Guys, listen, all of your immune cells come from your bone marrow. From your bone marrow. So when I sat back at 27 years old and said, once again, how can we feed that bone marrow? Because when you restore health, when you are health restoration clinics, when you have the Carpenter viewpoint, what you're going to do now is you want to restore people's immune response back to normal. So therefore, when they come in contact with any virus, any abnormal cell, that they have the best chance now of survival adaptation so they live a long, healthy life. Now, they come from your bones, you say, and they produce and they stem cell. I know people are big into injecting stem cells. I'm cool with it. I have no problem with it. But what if we could actually do this? What if we could figure out what your body needs to produce your own stem cells to give you the greatest immune response in the world? Oh, man, that's what we got to get on TV talk about. Hey, listen, why don't we get everybody into the doctors and get these labs done, and let's start individually figuring out what they need so we can build their immune response so they're not worried about anything. That's a different perspective. Now, if you notice, bad day, bad day, bad day. Natural killer cells, low. CD4 cells, low. CD8 cells, low. This person has cancer, extremely bad. This person came into one of our offices recently. This person didn't like what our doctor had to say, walked out mad. Walked out mad. You know what I'm saying is this? He's gonna, if he comes in contact with coronavirus, he doesn't have to be mad anymore because he will probably be dead. Do you understand? Not because we want him to, it's just that, man, the advice of our doc was, hey, don't be going around places and stuff like that. You got to protect yourself. You need to build your immune responses and stuff. It's really sad because without this kind of thing, do you understand? Without that being protected, this is the people that will die. This is the people that will be affected. This is the people that will actually, that they will put on the news like crazy, and they will force Congress to give them $8 billion to look at a wrong perspective. Why aren't we spending, do you understand, guys, we're putting our money in the wrong place. We're not looking, for example, how to build their immune response. We're actually trying to see how to manipulate it. And how is that done for us? Do you really think that viruses are that specific that we cannot build an immune response to it? And I love how they put it. Well, this is a mutated form. Every virus mutates. You mutate. Everything on the planet mutates. Even plants mutate. That's what we do. It's just an adaptation process that way. So now, it's all about the response. So I got a question for you. Do you know how you would respond? Do you know today how you would respond? I do. I'm very confident in what my response will be. It's not saying that if I come in contact with a virus, I won't get a stuffy nose, a runny, a fever. But why do we look at the bad if you know how the immune system works? See, because I'm telling people, just get a test done. The test is not specific to us. The test has been around forever. The test has been around before I even knew it was around. The tests that you can do. So Brandon will put message. Brandon will put it in the messenger that way. And the idea is this, is you can go see where you're at. I would, and if it comes back, don't be going out. You know what I'm saying? Protect yourself. Create the environment that you can actually thrive in that way. But then search out somebody that actually can help you build those things up. See, the cool thing is this, you don't try to sell people stuff, you try to show them that they may need some stuff. That's it. Because if you don't do it this way, let's see what the future, brings. This is one of the medical school's textbooks. Watch right here. Future of Immunology. Let me read it to you. Future of Immunology. I'm going to go to one of the medical school textbooks. For the student, a peek into the world of the future of immunology suggests many exciting areas in which the application of molecular and computational techniques promise significant dividends. To cite just a few examples, let us focus on vaccine development and the control of the immune response. The control of the immune response. Don't you think the body knows what it's doing in the first place? In the former, rather than laborious empirical search for an attenuated virus or bacterium for use in immunizations, it is now possible to use pathogen-specific protein sequences data and sophisticated compilation methods to identify candidate immunological peptides that can test for vaccines. Alternatively, DNA vaccines involving the injection of DNA vectors and their encoded immunization proteins may revolutionize vaccine protocols in a not-so-distant future. The identification of genes and proteins and portions, therefore, actually lead a wide spectrum of biological importance. This is the future of immunology. So, as everybody rushes and gives $8 billion to this thinking, where do you think we will be when flu season comes around? Where do you think we'll be next year when something else comes around? See, I don't think that way. Their immunology conclusions, even though this is the immunology textbook, you wonder why I say, well, my doctor said, well, what do you think he was taught? I was taught the exact same things. I just stepped back and said, it didn't make sense. And I guarantee what I taught you today made great clinical sense. There's not one doctor that will argue with what I do. They'll try to argue me. They'll try to argue me. They won't attack the message. They'll try to attack the messenger. That's okay. Because I know the message will appeal to everybody. So, best way to get your immune response. Number one, get tested. By far. You can skip all the rest of these, but really, get tested. That's number one. That's by far the basis for everything to restore your health. is actually get tested. Number 2, apple cider vinegar. Guess what? We talked about that acid production and the barriers. Right now, I'm not joking. Put it on your skin, douse in it. Now guess what? Everybody, all the grocery stores people are watching are going to run to the grocery stores and buy apple cider vinegar. I would. Forget toilet paper, buy apple cider vinegar. If you're going to use toilet paper, dump some apple cider vinegar on and put it on your body. Okay? What else? Astragalus. Yep. Oh my goodness. That to me is one of the greatest immune builders for our innate immune system there is. There's so much literature to back it. It's crazy. And it's why I've been obsessed with it my whole career. Vitamin D, vitamin D is such an essential thing for all of our body. Echinacea, our elderberry formula. This is quite amazing. For example, the formula that was put together. Thank you, Dr. Dale Brown, for your contribution to that. And we sold out of it so quickly. It was crazy because people's immunological responses from it was absolutely incredible. Get adjusted. Man, there's nothing that feels better to get the lymphatics to drain and take that stress off your body to get adjusted. And it really is great to actually coordinate your immune responses that way. So get adjusted. That's why, for example, you see that when children get adjusted, it changes immunological things like a sore throat, like ear infections, and like other things. It's important. Please go see your chiropractor. I am unbiased. I love all chiropractors. I do. Yes, I have more degrees than the chiropractor, but I enjoy all chiropractors. You don't have to be a wellness way doc. We got one there. He does all these things, but if you're not in the area of wellness way, go to your chiropractor. They're absolutely phenomenal. Camu, sauerkraut. Does anybody know why I have those there? Because right now China is doing a great study with the people. I can't wait to see what's happening. They're doing massive amounts of vitamin C with these people, and they're watching them recover from viruses, because viruses and vitamin C don't like each other. Okay, so because why? It creates an oxidation. It creates a puking out of that chemicals to where it starts to disintegrate them. But camu is probably the highest concentration of vitamin C. Sauerkraut. You guys know how much I love sauerkraut, but there's so much vitamin C in there, it's absolutely incredible. Plus there's other microbes in there. Plus there's great fiber in there that's great for the GI. It's absolutely incredible. Chia, great for our immune responses. Influenzana. At number 12, did I say get tested? Did I say get tested? Now, you say, Doc, you forgot one W. You forgot one W. You're right. Who? Don't live in fear. Search for wisdom. Who? Everybody. Everybody. The what, why, where, and when is actually quite obvious about the immune system is so vital to our existence here on the planet. For us to travel to California, to Hawaii, to Sweden, to Ireland, I've been all over. And that's just recently in the last couple months. I've watched people wear masks. I watch people run to grocery stores, be full of fear. I understand. Like I said, I've shared it with you today. I'm scared for some people, but it doesn't mean they can't get through it. It's just there's things that you need to do in order to actually do well with your immune responses to survive. This information, when it comes to the immune system, applies to everybody. The immune system doesn't care if you're male, doesn't care if you're female, doesn't care if you're political, it doesn't care about anything. It says, listen, if some external stressor like a virus comes in, it doesn't care who you are. Doesn't care if you're rich, doesn't care if you're poor. But the one thing I'll tell you this is the people that have the strongest immune responses will survive. Will survive. It's important that when I actually have this list behind you, that's something you take very seriously. Something that you can do that will build such an immune response that not only, for example, does it make you better off than you were before, but what happens is you actually will have less fear and can communicate this to other people. But you may not be able to communicate it the way I did. So you can please do me a favor. If this made sense to you, could you do me a favor? Could you share this? Remember, once again, my video does not take away from any medical advice. I have no problem that if a person's immunocompromised and they need to survive, they do what they need to do. This is not medical advice. This is immunological advice. This is advice to say, listen, how can we take care of our immune system? How can we take care to get the best response on the planet for everybody? For everybody. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you actually want to stay home, stay home. If you don't want to be around people, don't be around people. But regardless of what they explain to you do from the outside in our current level of thinking, I believe it's the things I gave you today, gave you a different perspective. Because why? Because we need to stop listening. We need to start learning so we can think differently, so our actions are different. So whatever you're thinking of doing over the next 6 weeks that they have shut down the world, my habits won't change. I will still continue to take what I take. I'll still test the way we test. We'll still do what we need to do to actually make sure that people have their best rates of things. I'm saying not saying you can't look at other things and take other advice that way. I'm just saying make sure your immune system is great so that no matter what virus or bacteria or anything you come in contact with, that you're in the best shape of your life. So that being said, I hope you understand, once again, when I started out saying there's no such thing as immunity. It's all about an immune response from the day you're born, actually to the day you die. And on that, my name is Dr. Patrick Flynn. Thank you so much for watching A Different Perspective today. Hey, thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a single video or live stream. Also, share this video with a friend. Once again, thank you for watching.